So how can we use, social media, our website, just some last minute things that are, cheap, that are quick, that can maximize our outreach, getting down to the last week or so.
Welcome to the Must Increase podcast, where our mission is to increase His name through your church. I am your host, Luke Clayton, and I'm here, of course, with Bo Snyder, the co-host and producer of the podcast. And this is part 6 of our Best Easter Ever podcast series, brought to you by our friends at theswap.io. The Swap.io is your church's only and best solution for managing personal outreach, and you can get started for free at theswap.io. Bo, this is pretty awesome. This is our second to now. In the last episode, I used this term, join us for our penultimate episode, and Bo was like, what does that even mean? And I feel so smart for using big words like that. It just means second to last. So I'm sorry, everybody, for overusing big fat terms or whatever. This is our second to last episode of the Best Easter Ever podcast series. And I don't know about you, Bo, but I've really enjoyed this series format.
No, it really has been good. I've enjoyed it. We've gone back and listened to a few episodes in the past, kind of taken some highlights. And we've talked about a lot of good things. I mean, everything from our last episode, getting the physical things you need, getting your people excited, talking about your decor, gifts for visitors. I mean, a whole range of, things for Easter Sunday. Now, this one's a little bit different because we're going to be talking about the different digital avenues or channels that we can use to, we're kind of getting really close. Mm-hmm. So it's probably too late to, mail physical things out or whatever. So how can we use, social media, our website, just some last minute things that are, cheap, that are quick, that can maximize our outreach, getting down to the last week or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like Bo said, this is stuff that you probably should already have been doing, but as you're moving into these final couple weeks, you really need to vamp it up. You need to do more with it. Of course, don't lose sight about getting your congregation excited about inviting others to Easter, because the closer we get to Easter, the more people start to think about it. And so you are nothing by any stretch of the means should you pump the brakes or take your foot off the gas on anything. You want to keep the motivation high to get people here for Easter, but now is the time to start, like Bo said, doing some of these digital means of marketing and really taking that to the next level.
Now, as you can see, Luke likes to use big words like digital marketing and, so let's break that down a little bit, for church leaders and pastors and church members who are trying to spread the word about Easter. Once again, there's different avenues, different, channels we can use. Let's talk about websites, the church website. What can we do to make sure that's ready to go? Yeah,
so like we said, you probably should already have something on your website for Easter. In fact, you really should have something on there beginning of April at the latest, a month out maybe. But if you haven't yet, you need to get something on your homepage that's dominant, that makes your Easter service information clear. When will it be? That's the main thing. Here's the service times. Some churches, they have to organize, and a lot of churches actually, they add extra service times during this, for this special Sunday to accommodate more guests. And so a lot of churches will maybe do something like a sunrise service. And full disclosure, I've never been to one. Don't know if I'll ever go to one. That's a little bit early in the morning for me. But nonetheless, it is actually a popular thing that churches do. So all that information, if you're going to have a Easter egg hunt, or if you're going to be doing something a little special, like some of the churches that are showing our films, or some of the churches that are doing maybe something extra in the area of music, or some pastors starting a new series. That's the kind of stuff you want to advertise. And like I said, you want it to be dominant on your homepage.
If someone in your community goes to your webpage within the next, week or so, or even a few days before Easter maybe, what you are doing on Easter should be easy to find right there. They shouldn't have to click around or scroll too long. They should be able to open up your page. Okay, Easter service there. This is what they're doing. All right, great.
Yep, and we could dive into a lot of the philosophy of how to properly, construct a website so that it is streamlined for the guests. So I like I said, I don't have time to dive into all that, but I will say this one thing because it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about here. We like to ask you the question, does it pass a glance test? Okay, what that means is at a glance, at a quick half second, 2 second, 3 second glance, Do you understand what you're trying to communicate on your website? And so like Bo said, at a glance on your website, as soon as it pulls up on my computer, or more likely on my phone, because that statistic of how many people are visiting websites on their phones for the first time just continues to rise. So when I pull up your website for the very first time, regardless of the device, within just a few seconds of that page loading, at a glance, do I know what you're trying to communicate? So do I know, hey, they have Easter services and they're at this time? That right now, this time of year, that should be your mission. I want within just a few seconds, 3 seconds or less of someone loading my website, I want them to know when Easter is, what time it is, and to get them more interested in learning more about my Easter services.
Something that we really push with pastors when we're talking about, they might have a question about their website, simplicity.
Yep.
Simple. Sometimes we like to go over the top with, whether it's a graphic or, we're going to make this an elaborate looking thing. No, simple is best. People don't like to think too hard. Yep. They really don't.
Absolutely.
There's this whole thing. Luke and I had done research on this. People burn calories when they got to think too much. This is confusing. I don't know what to do. So keep it simple is always the best option.
Yep. Less is more. Less is more. And the more simple, the better. There's profundity and simplicity. You have to do as much as possible to keep as little as possible in front of your website visitors or any of your marketing materials. It translates into any promotional effort, but we're talking about your website here specifically. So have your website ready to go with Easter content. And like I said, within just a few seconds of loading the page, you need to see, hey, that's when our services are. That's when Easter is. And like I said, get me more interested in Easter services within just a few seconds. That's the goal.
Now, what we just talked about, that really is contingent on maybe one or two people. Whoever controls the church website, maybe it's the pastor, maybe he outsources to somebody in, their church. Get a hold of that person. That's a change you have to make, now. Do it right now, because people are probably maybe already have visited your website, and if you don't have anything up, you might be losing some potential visitors. So
exactly.
that right there is contingent on you or whoever is making that call.
Yes.
Now, the next thing, social media. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, things like that, those are a little bit more, that can spread a fire. Mm-hmm. If nobody in your church congregation can just go on your website and do it for you. But when it comes to Easter, this is something that if you kind of give the preliminary, outreach or materials, this can spread like wildfire. So let's talk about social media a little bit.
Yeah, with social media, so you've got your website now. You've got your web page established. And actually, there's one more item we're going to come back to about the website here in a moment, but let's talk about social media first. When you have your web page for Easter established, like I said, it should be right on your homepage, dominant there, that says, hey, here's Easter. Okay, well, now we want to drive traffic to there. Of course, you're going to get some stuff, that comes through, search engines and Google and stuff, and all that's great, and, Google listings and all that, and we're not really going to talk about that because it's a whole other thing. But like Bo was saying, social media is really one of the primary digital ways to get the word out. And the nice thing about social media is this: if you're on social media, if your church has a presence on social media, and it should, you've got your church people that are connected with that. So we were working with a church not too long ago on a big event that they were having, outreach event, and they wanted to use some social media ads. And so we kind of helped them get that set up and, provided them with the graphics that they needed for that, and kind of kept an eye on their, their marketing efforts and whatnot, and that, and kind of were able to see some of the stats. And what was interesting was that they paid a lot of money, and rightly so. Like I said, I'm not saying that was an unwise expense, because so we'll dive in that a little bit more here in a moment, talking about the value of a paid advertisement on something like Facebook. But they did pay, they had a pretty significant budget when it came to their Facebook advertisement. And what wound up happening, though, what we found was that the post was shared, the one that they paid for, it was seen by a lot of people, but it was shared by a lot of people. So it was shared nearly 100 times, mostly by people in their church that were just trying to help get the word out. And here's what was interesting, was that for whatever reason, that church chose not to do any organic advertisement. And so by organic, we mean posting for free, just like you can on any social network. but rather they just went with the paid route. And so always start with organic advertisement. And here's why, because you're going to put a lot of money, or potentially you could put a lot of money into Facebook ads. Now, we don't claim to be social media experts. In fact, if you call us up and say, hey, we want you to help us set up a Facebook marketing campaign, we'll provide some general consultation, but it's not something that we quote unquote do. And so we don't claim to be experts at all, but here's just some general principles that you can keep in mind. The reason you want to start organically is because it's basically, first of all, it's a free test market. So I can put up different varieties of different types of posts with different pictures, different videos, different wording, and see what kind of gets the most traffic and the most traction. And then once I say, hey, this, for example, I put out 3 posts and this one got the best results just from free. It got the most likes, got the most shares, kind of get some indicators that it was well received. Well, that's the one that I'm going to actually, Facebook uses the term boost, okay? Or the one I'm going to take and actually pay for an advertisement on is the one that did well. And so always start organically, even if you say, I don't have it in the budget to do a paid ad. Well, you should always be doing the free stuff. Because when you do the free stuff, it gets it out there to your church, and then you can encourage your church people, hey, share this. And that's the beauty. That's why it's a term. We often use the term social media. We forget that the original term was actually social networking. And that's what it is. It's a network of people. So this connects with this person, and these people have their network of friends, and it kind of builds in that way.
A lot of church leaders are afraid of the word social media, but simply all it is, it's a modern term for word of mouth. That's really all it is. And if you ask, anyone who's in business or in marketing, the best form of advertising is word of mouth.
Yep.
It spreads, it's free, it's cheap. But sometimes when they hear, social media, I don't know about that. No, it's simply just your church people telling other people that they know, their friends, their coworkers, simply in a different form, or, potentially word of mouth, for real also. But it's just another tool.
Yep. So that social networking concept of saying, hey, we're going to post something organically, we're going to encourage our church people to share it. That can have a lot more impact than just a simple paid ad. Because when I share something on we're using Facebook specifically because that's probably the most popular. When I share something on my Facebook, well, my friends see that I shared that. My friends are my friends. And yes, the term friend on social media is kind of a loose term. You're friends with people that you don't really know or you knew from a long time ago. But the bulk of the people on there that you're connected with, they know you. And so when they see that you've posted something, there's an element of trust there. Whereas if they see just a paid ad from some random church or some random person, well, they don't know who it is. Not to say that it's not effective, but that trust factor isn't there. And so that's another good reason, is to kind of take that power of media and combine it with the power of word of mouth. And now you have a really effective avenue for sharing the word about your church, and specifically in this case about your Easter services.
My last thought on sharing. Let's say, there's you have people in your church, your congregation, they have people they work with, they have friends, real legitimate friends, and, they invite someone to church, okay? Or they share a post from their church. Now, if that person, just saw that ad or, saw something on Facebook about that church, they don't know you, they might not trust you, but they may trust the person that sent it to them inside the church. So that right there, that use your people to spread the word, because once again, they have friends, they have family, they have people that trust them, so use that.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is absolutely right in that, once again, we can't emphasize enough this trust factor that's just naturally there by connections that the people in your church already have to other people. Now, moving on from organic social media to paid advertisements. Once again, there's nothing wrong with this at all. And it is very effective, especially when you consider the amount of people that you can reach. Once again, we'll talk about Facebook specifically. Once again, we don't claim to be Facebook experts. We can help connect you with someone who might be, but this is just from what we know, the research that we've seen and done. Now, another way to reach people non-digitally is something like a direct mailer, okay? And so once again, going back to the event that we were working with recently with a church, we were helping them with their marketing. We did direct mailers, but then we did a variety of marketing outlets. We did direct mailers, and we also did Facebook. Now, once again, there actually are advantages to direct mail, and we're not going to talk about that now, but I don't want you to think that I am the kind of guy that says forget mailers, forget all paper marketing and physical marketing, and just focus on digital. But here's something to consider. We found that for a third of the cost of the mailers, they were able to reach 3 times as many people on Facebook. So let's just make the numbers really, really simple here. They're probably wrong. In fact, they are wrong. The specific postal rates and all that is different depending on your organization and all that stuff. But let's say that this church spent $1,000 on mailers and reached 1,000 people. Okay, that's a dollar per person. That's a pretty decent return. Well, this same church, in this case, using the numbers, that means they spent just over $300 in Facebook ads and reached 3,000 people. That's the difference between the power of something like a digital Facebook ad and something like mailers. Once again, where this is not about, mailers and direct mail, there is an advantage of that Facebook doesn't have, and we can maybe address that in a later episode. Just trying to get you to understand that Facebook particularly is an extremely powerful platform. Now, yeah, we don't always agree with the privacy issues and the security issues that's come up here in the past 6 to 12 months about Facebook, but nonetheless, they are a force that is not going away anytime soon. And your church can actually allocate a reasonably low budget and really still reach a lot of people if you consider doing Facebook ads. And so that's social media. You can use social media organically. If nothing else, if you say, I don't have the money to put into Facebook, well, there's really no excuse you shouldn't be using it organically. And like I said, combining the power of digital advertisement with word of mouth with your people on social media to spread the word. And if you want to go the extra mile, then you can actually do paid ads.
Now, when it comes to digital outreach, we've talked about websites, social media. If social media is, something out of your comfort zone, you just don't know if you want to tackle that right now, that's okay. We can use a couple more tools that are a little bit more user-friendly, email and texting. Let's talk about those a little bit deeper.
Yes. So when we talk about email and text messaging, we are talking about that. Of course, we're talking about the bulk email, bulk texting, like kind of sending out, people call it like an email blast or a text blast or something like that. And with both of those, the unique opportunity we have with those is that you can directly contact someone. With social media, it's not direct. You're putting it out there, you're posting it to, the social media universe or whatever.
The masses.
Yes. And it's kind of like a big message board. If somebody happens to scroll past it and see it and get interested, cool. Whereas with email and text messaging, you are directly contacting someone. And most people are prone to, actually read that and look at it. And so with text messaging, we'll start there because that one can be a little more complex. It's actually kind of difficult unless you just sit down and are one of those people who puts 100 people in a group message on iMessage. Please don't be that person. So that's actually not what we're talking about. We're not talking about group messaging everyone, though I guess you could take that approach. We are talking about using a actual texting marketing service to kind of blast that information to this. Now, with this, it requires people to subscribe by, you've all heard it, on the radio before, text this keyword to this short little number, and then that way they've got your phone number and they can blast out marketing content to you. So it's that concept. And so you have to have subscribers, people that have opted in to receive your text messages, and then you can blast them out. Now, most of these text services are paid. There is, however, one that I know of that is free, and it's called Remind.com. That's Remind.com. We'll add a link to that in the show notes. So Remind.com was actually originally created for classroom use. So it was a way for teachers to communicate with their students, and that's actually still the primary function. And so it's kind of geared around that classroom education mindset, but it can be applied to anything. And it's a free app that you can get in the App Store or in Google Play, I think. And you can also go to just Remind.com on your web browser and set up for free. And then you can start putting that out to your church, text this keyword to this number, and now you're starting to get phone numbers that you can start blasting out information to. So, like I said, that one's a little bit more, it's a little bit more complex. And I say it's not complex as much as it is, it's not always free, and there's a little more effort to capture those numbers. You've got to get somebody to text this to this and whatever. So, but it is nonetheless a great way to directly reach people. But the more simplified method and the more common method of directly digitally reaching someone is through email. Now, email was invented in like the 90s, and for years people kept threatening that email was going to die off, it was going to go away. Things like social media and texting were going to overtake it. That is not true. The number one way to digitally reach someone is through email, still to this day, because of that aspect of directly communicating with someone. Once again, jumping back to Facebook, with Facebook, the way their algorithms are worked, you can post something and actually even someone who technically follows you would never see it. That's just the way their algorithms work. It's kind of weird. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but Facebook has it worked out to where, hey, it's just whatever makes them money, keeps people on Facebook. That's their deal. That's how they do it. Whereas with email, if I send an email to 1,000 people, it's going to hit 1,000 inboxes. And so when I send out an email, I can directly reach someone. And so there's a lot of free ways to send emails. MailChimp.com. Then there's MailerLite.com. That's MailerLite, MailerLite, light.com. Once again, we'll add links to the show notes for these. And these are free. You can use these to manage your emails, send out emails. And what's nice too is you can track statistics. So you can see, hey, this many people opened it, this many people clicked on it, and so on and so forth. There's other ones out there that are great as well that you can use. But if you aren't using email and or texting in a way to directly reach someone, it's something you can start doing that is free. And yes, it's a little bit more cut and dry and simple. And in many cases, in most cases actually, much more effective than social media.
So we just talked about a bunch of free digital tools that you can use for Easter outreach, or even, outreach any time of the year. It doesn't have to be Easter. So we talked about church websites, we talked about social media, emailing and texting, and we said we were going to come back to one thing when it comes to the church website.
Yes, and so you've got all these different channels, websites, social media, email, that you're reaching out to people. But here's a very important thing about all of that. You can send out information that just says, here's when our Easter services are, here's the times. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But you are missing a huge opportunity if you don't have a call to action. And a call to action, well, what is the call to action? Come visit church. Now we're talking about something a little bit more specific. And that's where the online RSVP comes in. With online RSVP, for example, let's go back to your website. You've got this banner posted that says Easter, here's the service times. Add a button under there that says something like count me in, or I'll be there, or RSVP even, or whatever. And it's not, you're not charging for people to come to your church. It doesn't imply that at all. You definitely, and I don't think anybody's going to think that you're going to charge them to church, but you just give them the idea that, hey, I'm going to RSVP to be there. And why would you do that? Well, you do it because it gives you an opportunity to capture contact information before they ever come into the door. Before they ever walk into your church, you can capture their contact details. You say, okay, let's say you got your information on your banner there, Easter at our church this time. You got a button that says RSVP now. You click on RSVP, and it takes you to a new page or a pop-up window, whatever, that says, give us your name and give us your email address. That's usually the best way. Just keep it very simple. Some people want to try to capture phone numbers and stuff. It's proven that the less information you ask for, the more likely you're going to get the information you're asking for. And so name and email is usually sufficient. And then just as simple as redirecting the pages. Hey, thanks for letting us know you'll be there. We'll save a seat for you. We'll have a gift for you, whatever you want to say. Now what you've done is you have captured their email address, which is, once again, going back to what we're talking about email. It's huge. It's important because now you can directly contact them. And so there's a lot of different ways to set this up. You can set it up to where, hey, within just a few minutes of capturing their email address, you send them an email that says, hey, here's the information about it. Once again, reminder, we want to let you know we've saved your seat and we look forward to seeing you there. Then as you get closer to Easter, you can send out, you don't want to spam email. You don't want to email them every day and be annoying. But, as you come out, hey, for example, a few days before Easter, hey, Easter's this Sunday. Still looking forward to seeing you there. And you've already got the information. Another nice thing that people do with this information is they take their name and they can make a nice little custom, almost tag for their gift. So it's kind of like, hey, this gift is